All right, we are back for a postseason edition of the Strickland NFL podcast. Back again with Desmond after this absolutely fucking terrible Jets and Giants season. We're
Dude,
ready to move on.
it's over. That's all I gotta say. It's
It's
finally over.
finally over, finally finished up. We're gonna get into all the offseason stuff for both teams so far, from coaching searches, coaching decisions, GM decisions, and then a little bit of draft talk for the Giants coming up with that third pick. But before we get into all that good stuff, I just want to remind everybody that the Strickland does have a Patreon, which is where you can access the full version of this podcast. For those watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify, all that good stuff, you can get our full podcast behind the $9 tier of the Strickland Patreon. We also have a 3, 6, and above tier, so like 3, 6, 9. I think it's like 15, 25 on top of that.
I can't read, dude. Don't ask me.
Okay. No, I'm not reading. This is off the dome right here.
But, I'm saying I can't read the tiers. So I
okay. And then and then I believe there's a $50 tier where if you subscribe to that, you can co-host the podcast with me and Des. So
yeah.
Yeah.
You can spread them with us.
You can spread them with us. I was about to say.
That's pretty tempting, man. I'm not gonna lie.
Who wouldn't want to spread them with us?
Shit. Is there? I would want to spread with me personally.
It's what I'm thinking.
Shit.
And then additionally, BetOnline continues to be our most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all things online betting. From the earliest in-game live betting odds, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen, with the largest selection of odds on everything from football, NBA, college basketball, NHL, and UFC. You can head over to BetOnline today, and don't forget to use the promo code capital BLEAV, Jesus Christ, for your welcome back bonus. And BetOnline, the game starts here. So that was a fucking shit ad read.
Hey man,
but
I've seen
not much worse than what Joe Shane's done the last 3 seasons.
Yeah, cook.
Anyway, we'll start off with the Jets. Always a lot of Giants talk on here. You know, Giants opinions are always getting thrown out on this podcast. The Jets have a franchise-altering offseason coming up. Obviously,
yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, GM search, head coach search. We have the full list of GM candidates. Thank you to Zach Rosenblatt,
former Giants reporter.
Both he does both, right? Or is that
no? Connor Hughes does both. Zach used to be Giants and then flipped to Jets, like I think 2 or 3 years ago.
So he's a traitor.
Yeah, he's a little bitch. No, I'm sorry, Zach. I know you're not going to watch this, but
well, the first wave of guys who they have interviewed, we'll do interviewed guys, and they have upcoming candidates.
Yep.
So he has tweeted out Thomas Dimitroff, who used to be the GM of the Falcons, John Robinson, who used to be the Titans GM, Louis Riddick, which is a fucking joke.
I was gonna say, like, I'll continue, but I'll get on to Louis Riddick when we.
Jim Nagy, who is the Senior Bowl executive, who's always on Twitter.
I was gonna say, like,
he's there. Alec Hallaby for the Eagles is there, who pretty good candidate.
Yeah,
with all they've got going on. And then Mike Borgonzi, which I think I've heard his name more than a couple times through other GM searches.
He sounds like a fucking Italian, so I like him.
Sound like an Italian. Pretty confident that he is. Then their upcoming interviews: Mike Greenberg of the Bucks, Chris Spielman of the Lions, Ray Farmer of the Rams, who I think is a fucking great candidate with all that they've done so far with their draft. Trey Brown of the Bengals, Ryan Grigson of the Vikings, former Colts GM as well, I believe, and John Eric Sullivan of the Packers. So, just of these guys who have been interviewed, I think the first 4 are pretty fucking bad.
Yeah, what's the fucking deal with Louis Riddick? Like, why do teams keep? Has he ever done anything in a front office?
I honestly
I'll look into it real quick.
It's been how many years? So he was in the cycle where we hired Dave Gettleman.
I was gonna say, I feel like I remember the Giants giving him an interview, and I had the same reaction of like, what the fuck?
Yeah. So it's been nearing on a decade now, where he's interviewed for all these different jobs. never gotten GM title, never been involved in any front office stuff post 2016, maybe even further back from what I know.
Okay, yeah. So after his playing career ended, Riddick became a scout for the Washington Commanders for 4 years before being promoted to director of pro personnel. He
Okay.
was then hired by the Eagles as a pro scout in 2008, promoted to director of pro personnel in 2010, and then um, joined ESPN.
And he's
So
been there for a decade and a half.
I don't. It doesn't say when he joined. It just says later joined. But I know he's been there for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think he's a serious candidate. Like, he's never going to get a job.
No, I mean, and if he is, I just don't think it can be a general manager like starting out. Like if he gets hired as like an assistant GM or like a whatever sometime, cool. But I mean, especially for a team like the Jets, I really just don't think a guy like Louis Riddick is going to solve your problems at this point.
No, and honestly, for a team like the Jets, who have been such a media circus,
Yeah,
he doesn't make sense for a team that's trying to get out of the headlines.
yeah,
So between that, he's not a serious candidate to me. Jim Nagy is a fun, like, whoa, Jim Nagy's on this list.
yeah.
Jim Nagy's
Why
not
not?
serious. He
Yeah.
is not serious. John Robinson, I believe he's the guy who traded away AJ Brown and drafted Treylon Burks.
Oh, good God.
So
Speaking of which, the Titans fired their, I mean, I got not current anymore, but their GM from the last 2 seasons, which
yeah,
what are your thoughts on that? Because I'm not like I'm not gonna say I don't get it, because like I do understand, 2 not great seasons, you might want to move on. But at the same time, I feel like he's gotten a lot of good foundational pieces for them to build off of moving forward.
yeah. So I got into this a little bit on the Discord, in our Strickland Discord, but
Mm-hmm.
I think that for what he is, right, came over from the Niners. The Niners have always been a big time trenches, draft and develop type of organization. So
Yeah.
first 2 seasons takes Peter Skoronski first round, takes JC Latham first round. Both picks so far have been hits. They kick Skoronski inside, so maybe not the best value there, but that's a good player, building
Yeah.
block, whatever the case may be. Then it's Avondre Sweat, and I believe it was either the second or third round, but he was a day 2 pick. That was a hit. And I mean, look at us as Giants fans. We went through 3 years of drafting with Joe Shane, and it never, like, until this year, it wasn't really like, okay, fire this guy right fucking now. It
Mm-hmm.
never got to that point. And for them, they were already a bad team.
Yeah.
Then they hire Rand Carthen. He has some decent drafts. He doesn't hit on the back end picks, but the front end picks are hits. Some people are split on what he did in free agency. I liked what he did, paying Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
I liked paying Tony Pollard. They both produced, and I think to some extent it's a little skewed because of how bad their quarterback play was. At the end of the day, he was never in a position to draft a quarterback.
Yeah.
Like, not a true position where he was like, okay, this is a stud. He could have got Penix this year. He could have got McCarthy. He could have got Bo Nix. I would have still taken McCarthy over JC Latham. But the way that you are kind of like validating a firing is by passing on a franchise quarterback, and I'm not sure he is that yet.
Yeah.
So between Latham being good and their cap sheet like looks pretty decent going forward, I think there's other things wrong there. Like, Will Levis was the quarterback, bro. That's what's wrong.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's like I said, when you said he got foundational pieces. And when you're coming into a draft, they have what, second pick, right?
First, the first pick.
Oh,
Round.
no, right. They do have first. Right, right,
Yeah.
right. You have the first pick, and you see that this guy can draft pretty well with his top picks. Why not give him a chance to draft that quarterback? Because
What's
now
funny?
you can bring someone else in with an entirely different, idea of how to draft and how to evaluate talent. He could screw up everything that Carthon had.
What's funny is people who are evaluating the quarterbacks this year, and rightfully so or wrongfully so, whatever the case may be, I don't know yet, but they have said that one of the negatives on Cam Ward is that he does all this great stuff in Miami, and they had a great offense, yada yada, but he never had to worry about pressure. He never had to worry about, the bottom line, the protection was always great for him. Their line was very good. and that is somehow a negative on who he is as a prospect. That's what they say.
Hmm.
I don't agree, but if you want to credit that negative to him, there's not a better spot really. Like, I guess you could say us because we have Andrew Thomas, we have Illuminor for another season. We have Ryan locked up, so that's 3 good pass protectors. But the Titans line is pretty good situation to be walking into with those 2
Yeah.
foundational pieces for Cam Ward. The Browns have an older line. They have like Joel Bitonio's been around for fucking forever.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm not surprised he's still kicking because he's still good from last
Yeah,
time I checked. But like, I mean, how old is he now? 35.
it has to be something like that because he was around when I was playing Madden Mobile in middle school,
Oh,
which is
that's yep. He's 33. He's actually a little younger than I expected. Wow.
I mean 33 is still no spring chicken.
Yeah.
So um yeah, I think between them, um like who else is there that's a better situation for him coming in? I mean, there's a wide receiver one, there is a decent tight end in Chigakonkwo, a good run game, uh, and there's a situation there where like Brian Callahan being who he is as an O-line coach, who is the head coach's older father, right?
Mm-hmm.
He came out of retirement, I think, to take that job with his son,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he was widely regarded as one of the best O-line coaches in football. Proved it this year again, coming back. Their line played great. That's a situation where you have your weapons, you still have cap space, and you can start Mason Rudolph for like 3-4 games, like Cam Ward, kind of like just dip his toes in, see what it's like, come in week 5, week 6, something like that. So
Yeah.
I think he kind of got the shit end of the stick. We'll see who they hire, but yeah, I kind of fought that good fight on Twitter, and people disagreed with me. So
It's like
it,
I can like I said when I opened it, I was like I can somewhat understand firing him, but I personally I wouldn't.
yeah,
Like I think
yeah,
I
I'd
think it's
land
too
there as well.
risky.
Yeah.
All right.
Getting back to some of the scheduled guys. So we went through the first 4. The latter 2, Alec Hallaby from the Eagles and Mike Borgonzi from the Chiefs. Those are 2 good candidates. Alec Hallaby is the Eagles assistant GM for the last 3 seasons. Mike Borgonzi as well, same thing, Chiefs assistant GM, I believe, for the last 3 seasons. Might have been 2, but I can't find out if it's 2020, 2023, 2023. So 2 teams drafting really well. They know how to configure the pieces around, right? Like 2 teams that have built through the O-line as well. I think that the Jets might stay away from Hallaby because he's an Eagles guy and they just had Joe Douglas. Would that factor in at all?
I think I don't know. Because it's weird because like as like someone obviously would know with absolutely no input on that, I could like kind of see that having an effect of like, oh, this guy didn't work out, let's not pick the same fruit, pick a fruit from the same tree. um but at the same time, like if you believe in that candidate enough, I feel like that's enough where you can just kind of disregard that and just hope it's just a one-time mistake.
Yeah. Yeah. It is interesting that Hallaby is the guy who took Joe Douglas's job after Douglas left
Yeah.
a couple of years, like I think a year or so later. So that's a good thing to note. The upcoming guys, obviously the headliners are going to be Chris Spielman of the Lions because they've been just the fucking story of the league for the last 30
Yeah.
seasons, really. And then Ray Farmer of the Rams, who I think is probably the best candidate throughout this whole cycle. And we could go into why a little bit more, but let's talk about Chris Spielman a little bit. The Lions have been hitting on everybody, whether people agree with the pick at the time, hate it. Everybody from like Jahmyr Gibbs to Brian Branch.
I was
Um,
just gonna say that. I saw
yeah,
someone post. It was like, "Is this the best run of draft picks ever?" What was that? Was that 2022 or 23?
I
That
think it was
you're talking
23.
about, Brian? Hold
23, I believe.
on. Yeah, because
Because
they went
I think they
Jameer and
went,
Jack Campbell in the first round.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And then they went, I think it was Branch right after, and I think they went Aleem McNeil after that.
Yep. So I remember when they made the first 2 picks, I was so pissed off. Not because of the prospects. I loved Jack Campbell. I loved Jahmyr Gibbs. I did not think that they should have gone that high, especially Jack Campbell. I thought he was going to be like a late
30s.
first, early second type of guy. But like I look at that, I'm like, man, I really know fucking nothing compared to these GMs because both those picks hit like crazy. They're both incredible players. And then you get into Sam Laporta, Brian Branch, like you mentioned, like that's elite ass drafting, man.
Oh, okay, so it was Laporta. It wasn't Lee McNeil. Lee McNeil was probably earlier then.
He was not in this draft. Lee McNeil, not drafted at least.
Okay, yeah, no, he was
I'm
he
looking
was the
for
year
him.
before then. Because now that you say Laporta, he was the guy in that screenshot instead. You are right. You are right. Yeah. Um, I also think the job they've done with their cap is pretty good. Like they've
Yeah,
drafted these guys, they've paid a bunch of them, but then they also had the space to bring in Anzalone, who was a good pro, like their pro scouting department to identify him, bring him in on a good deal. Great shit. Malcolm Rodriguez was a UDFA, I believe, as well. So
yeah, I think so.
him, Carlton Davis, well, they've brought in also what's his name? Is it Kirby Joseph? Yeah, I know it's Kirby
Yep,
something.
Kirby Joseph.
The guy
Yep.
who everybody thinks is dirty for his low hits.
I I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that. I think some of it I can see it, but it's also like, hey man, hard hitting safety. He plays hard. I'm not gonna be upset about it for the most part. Like I said,
I
there are a couple plays.
There's some that are questionable, and it's like, yeah,
Yeah, like maybe he definitely went at that with some intent, but it's like, hey man, gotta do what you gotta do.
yeah. You got to put your food on the table for the family.
Yeah.
We understand that. We respect that, Mr. Joseph. Um, but Chris Spielman, great candidate. I think the clear top four, maybe five if you want to throw in somebody who we'll discuss later from the Packers. The clear top four is Hallaby from the Eagles, Borgonzi from the Chiefs, Spielman from the Lions, and Ray Farmer from the Rams. Now, Ray Farmer's resume with the Rams, he joined them as a senior personnel executive in 2021. He's been there since, and their drafts since 2021 are incredible. So the 2021 draft, right before he took over, for example, Tutu Atwell, Ernest Jones, Bobby Brown, Robert Rochelle, Jacob Harris, Ernest Brown, Jake Funk, Ben Skowronek. Who the fuck, besides Ben Skowronek, because I know him, like his last name is fucking so unique,
Yeah.
those guys never produced a damn thing for the Rams, besides Atwell a little bit in the last couple seasons.
Yeah.
But since then, Jacoby Durant, or Kobe Durant now, I guess as he's better known, DB, Kyron Williams, running back who's put back to back, I think, 1,000-yard seasons, Quinton Lake, who's produced, Darion Kendrick, who's produced, and then this year, 2 years ago still, Puka Nacua, 5th round. We have Kobe Turner, 3rd round, Byron Young, 3rd round, Esteban Avila, 3rd round, or Steve Avila, as he was known in draft circles.
I was gonna say how has he been? Because I was relatively
He's
high on
been
him.
good. He's
Good.
been
That's
good.
awesome.
Yeah. So those last three I mentioned, Avila, Young, Kobe Turner, good players. Stetson Bennett is in there. Bad pick. Happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
But
Not
Puka
to mention they
Nacua,
haven't those 2 years, no first round picks either.
no first round picks at all. They do a good job of training guys for comp picks too. Like
Yeah.
Puka Nacua was a comp pick.
I didn't know that. That's
So
awesome. Yeah, they have an insane amount of picks in 23. Oh my god.
yeah. This class is, how many picks is this class? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It's like 15 picks over here,
That's
which is
insane.
fucking nuts. But that 23 class, 4 cornerstone players in this class alone. And then you get to this year. Jordan Whittington contributed this year as a 6th round pick when Cooper Kupp got hurt and when Puka was hurt. So good pick already. Bo Limmer, I believe, is already starting at center for them, if I'm not mistaken, from the times that I've watched them. And then Jared Verse and Braden Fisk, rounds 1 and 2. They pretty much got the defensive rookie of the year at the 19th pick. Like,
yeah.
this guy knows talent, and he's proven it 3 years in a row. He's really saved them from a lot of shit from like 2021 and earlier. That draft class we read out was not good. The year before that, it was headlined by Cam Akers, Van Jefferson, Terrell Lewis. Like, not
Murder.
good stuff.
Yeah.
And he's turned the tide over there for them. So, we don't have a horse in the race. How would you order these guys? A very arbitrary list, just from going through surface level stuff.
If I had to guess or put mine together, Spielman won.
Okay.
I just the drafting alone with the Lions has me very high on what he could do. I want to put Borgonzi, fucking Italian, whatever. I want to put him to.
Of the pizza.
He drafted a prospect. I want to put him too because of the whole Chiefs thing, but the talent evaluation that Ray Farmer has done with the Rams is like very much worth noting. But I think I'll go fucking Italian, Borgonzi, number 2. 3 would be Ray Farmer, and then 4 would be Hallaby, just because I don't know. The Eagles, fuck the Eagles, first of all. Second of all, the whole, like you're saying, the whole Woody Johnson thing where I could see them being a little more hesitant, but at the same time,
Yeah. No, I hear you. I also was interested to see his free agency moves, Ray Farmer, that is, because he's not just a draft executive, he is a senior personnel executive. So he oversees that entire thing. And they had brought in this offseason Tre'Davious White, who didn't really make too much of an impact, but that's because they have a lot of DBs already. Jimmy Garoppolo, decent backup. Yeah. Darius Williams, who has, I believe, played well for them. But I know Cameron Curls played a big role for them. They got him on a nice deal, and I thought he would have been an option for the Giants this offseason.
He was my, like, if they let McKinney walk, please, for the love of God, bring this guy in. And they let McKinney walk and did not bring him in.
How much do you think he got, by the way, Cam Curl?
I know it was a lot less than I thought he was going to and that he should have gotten.
Yeah, he got 2 years for $8.5 million.
That's fucking absurd, man.
Yeah, with incentives to bring it up to $13 million. So
he needs to kill his agent.
He needs to,
that's
exactly correct. And then they stole Jonah Jackson from the Lions. They paid him a shit ton. They paid him $17 million a year. It's a lot of money, but when you steal from a top team, who they might even see in the postseason this year, you steal him from a top team. You pair him with Avila. You pair him with who is the other guard who they had paid last year. I think it was something Brown.
I think so.
But they paid. It was Kevin Dotson. It was Kevin Dotson.
Oh shit! Right from the Browns. Fuck the Bears, right?
He was.
Was it the Bears or the?
I forgot. I think what Kevin Dotson was. He was on the Steelers, I believe, as a center. Then he was traded to the Rams. They moved Avila to guard. And then
who the fuck
Kevin Dotson had a great season with them. So that interior three, their interior three is guard, center, guard. They have an elite trio over there.
Yeah. Who the? I'm thinking of James Daniels from the Bears. Jesus Christ.
James Daniels. When I said offensive guard named Brown, I thought of Jamon Brown. If you remember him from like 5 years ago.
I think so. Yeah. Yes.
I convinced myself that guy was gonna save our O-line. Fucking ridiculous. But yeah, so with that, that free agency class, the draft work that he's done, the way they've manipulated their trade ups, trade downs, which may or may not be under his scope of practice, I'm not sure. Their organization, since he got elevated, has been so well run. I think he's a prime candidate. I think you look at teams like the Eagles, Chiefs, and to a lesser extent the Lions. We'll call it Eagles and Chiefs. Those two teams are held up so much by their quarterback. It's crazy. Yeah. And we could say we want about Hurts as a passer. The fact is he's a top 3, top 4 rushing quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
So they do things through Jalen Hurts that other teams can't do. When you look at the Rams, more or less, they've succeeded with a statue at quarterback in Matthew Stafford, although he's fantastic. They have been so dynamic of a team while having such a lack of dynamicism. Is that a word?
Dynamic. I think like dynamism is a word. Like I
Okay,
think I've
such a
seen that
lack
in
of
articles and
dynamism
shit. Yeah.
at quarterback spot. Some of that's due to Sean McVay, but the talent that he's let them kind of just fuck around with that offense, and even with the defense, it's a credit to him. He would be my number one personally for the Jets for this cycle. I think after that, I think I'd go Spielman just because, like we said, that 4-pick run in that
Oh
draft
my
class is
god,
fucking
dude.
nuts. And then I'd probably put Hallaby 3 because the Eagles, Rams, and Lions, best 3 trenches of those clubs. Although they all 4 have really good trenches.
Yeah.
Those I think are the 3 best. Those guys have just done a great job year in year out with the draft. The Chiefs have as well, but I think those 3 kind of separate themselves a little bit.
Yeah.
John Eric Sullivan is the last guy I wanted to touch on just a little bit. He's from the Packers. The Packers have been doing a great job with drafting offensive talent more so than defensive talent so far. I think everybody kind of agree with that.
Yeah.
Their receiver picks have been great from Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, Jaden Reed, who I can't believe how he's as good as he is. I was not very high on him coming out personally.
I was like, I wasn't super high, but I didn't think he'd be bad. I thought he'd be like just kind of fine.
I thought he was like a wide receiver 3. He's like a wide receiver like 1.5 maybe.
Yeah.
So I think he deserves some consideration here. We'll see how things shake out, but this is a healthy list of candidates from those 5 guys who we've said. If I was a Jets fan, I'd be pretty inspired by these candidates personally.
We should, be Giants fans inspired by these candidates.
We should be Giants
Here
fans.
we are.
Yeah,
Here we fucking are. You want to know something that just came to me in a fucking dream? And this might, I don't know if we're done talking here, but it could be a segue into our, wait, what did you say to me?
Like this morning, it came to you in a dream?
Oh, I'm talking about right now.
Oh, okay.
It just hit me. John Mara
Mm-hmm.
looking to recreate his magic. Ready? I'm looking at, we're talking about the Rams. I'm thinking, wait a minute. They have a quarterback there, Matthew Stafford.
Yep.
And I thought of the last time the Giants brought in a Rams quarterback and then proceeded to draft a quarterback.
Oh.
John Mara could get a little, make Joe Shane get a little freaky here.
I am a bad fan, and I can't think of what you're talking about.
I'm talking about when the Giants brought in Kurt Warner and drafted Eli.
Oh, okay. I forgot that Kurt Warner was on that team.
Yeah, man.
That's a blunder by
He
me.
played, I think, 9 games and then handed the torch off to Eli.